A century of hope.
I'm very grateful to Red Cross. I feel very blessed to have them.
A century of compassion.
They basically take care of you.
A century of service.
There is so much more to the Red Cross.
Celebrating the Red Cross's 100-year legacy of caring for Houstonians when they need it the most.
Hello, I'm Lisa Hernandez, and we are so glad you could join us. KHOU 11 is honored to bring you this special tribute to the amazing work done by the American Red Cross of the Texas Gulf Coast for the past 100 years. The American Red Cross began its official relationship with our area in 1916, thanks to the vigorous determination of Houston banker and philanthropist Jesse H. Jones. It was a partnership forged by disaster and nurtured by an unwavering devotion to care for those facing challenges and hardship.
When the Houston Area Red Cross was chartered back in 1916, it was done so to meet the need of local residents. These are people that had been victims of war, of fires, of hurricanes, and floods. All along the Texas Gulf Coast, the Red Cross aims to prevent and alleviate human suffering in the face of emergencies, and they do it by mobilizing the power of their volunteers and their generous donors. That power is evidenced as volunteers care for victims every day of a single house fire or a large-scale disaster like a hurricane or a flood.
But the Red Cross cared for residents of the Texas Gulf Coast years before the local chapter was born. Clara Barton, founder of the American Red Cross, traveled to Galveston shortly after the 1900 hurricane devastated the island, killing thousands. The 89-year-old Barton helped coordinate relief efforts for victims. Additionally, during her visit, she became aware that orchard growers in Pasadena suffered significant losses to their crop. She stepped into action, ordering 1.5 million strawberry plants that were shipped to Pasadena. To this day, the city honors the Red Cross's gift with its annual Strawberry Festival. That trip to Galveston would be Barton's last field mission as president of the organization. Today, the Red Cross is widely known for its recovery assistance after disasters like hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, and fires. But the charity is so much more. In fact, providing resources and service to the armed forces and their families was at the root of the Red Cross's formation.
My daughter's in the Navy. My son was in the Army. Their grandfather that just passed was Army. My father was Navy.
I enlisted because whenever I was going to college, I kind of wanted to do more, and it sounds very cliche, but I saw all the bad things that were happening in the world, and I kind of wanted to be doing something about it instead of complaining about it.
This past week and last week have been rather difficult watching my father-in-law pass away.
My mom kept trying to call me, and I was so busy trying to check in. And when my brother started calling me, I knew that something was going on. And he said, "Grandpa passed away, and we've been trying to call you." The minute they told me, I gave them the information that they needed in order to start getting my emergency leave approved.
The process is very easy. I contacted Red Cross through their 1-800 number. The people on the other end of the line are always so caring. They pull the information that they need at that time, and then they take the ball and start running with it.
Good morning, American Red Cross.
My son is my only child, Jared Michael. He enlisted on July 28th, and on September 5th, my biological mother passed away. I didn't know how to get in touch with them. He was in basic training, so it's almost like pulling teeth. You can't get through to them. I Googled how to get a message to him, and the American Red Cross popped up. On their website, there's a place for military families to get in touch with them or to keep in contact with them. And I clicked on that, and he was able to actually come home. That's what they do. They help the soldiers, and they help us get in touch with each other when something like that happens. There is so much more to the Red Cross.
The first time we found out about the Red Cross, my son was deployed in Iraq with the Army, and his father became critically ill. I mean, I was close to being devastated, and knowing one phone call it meant he got to see his father. You let your kids join the service and you pray for the best. And it's a comforting thought knowing that if something did happen at home, that you're able to retrieve them back and bring them home. I want to say thank you very much. Without them, it's hard enough when you're going through stuff like this with family emergencies. It's a wonderful feeling knowing that there are others out there. They basically take care of you.
I was in the military for a little over 6 years. I was in the Air Force. I was military police for the majority of it. When I got out and decided to get back into volunteering, the Red Cross was the first organization that came to mind. It's anything from providing military members the same information that was provided to me and the loved ones that do lose somebody over, just communicating the resources that the Red Cross has for them and what we can do for them since they've lost a loved one. Or if you're a veteran, you just need a little assistance, anything from counseling to financial support, that the Red Cross is there to support the military in any way they can. Any way you can support the Red Cross as it supports the military and our brothers and sisters and families that are downrange and even the ones that are here and need help. When you get out, you miss a lot of the camaraderie and the atmosphere that's in the military and a lot of things like that, and just having meaning to what you're doing. I think that volunteering for the Red Cross gives that back to me.
For any organization to be around for 100 years, a volunteer organization that's still relevant, and it's really an organization that people just know they're going to be there. When a disaster happens, a home fire happens, the Red Cross will be there. It's very comforting. They've been around for 100 years and continue to help people out when they're in a disaster situation or in some situation where they just don't have any place to turn.
In the past 6 months alone, the Red Cross assisted more than 7,000 people impacted by storms and flooding in Houston and along the Texas Gulf Coast. As CEO of the Houston Area Red Cross, Steve Vitranos has overseen his share of disasters. But last Memorial Day, the man who spent decades helping others found himself in desperate need of help.
On Memorial Day of 2015, which was May 25th, I had started the day by going over to an apartment complex that had just been hit with a tornado. And then that night, my wife and I were watching the news intently and watching the level of bayous here, wondering if we were going to receive water in our house.
On radar right now, the worst of it right over Houston, and that's where it will likely stay for what could be several more hours.
Within a half hour, the water was coming in the house pretty quickly, and we started having concerns about our kids. I have 3 young kids. The water had gotten up to about, it was just a little more than 3 feet. We decided to take our kids, ages 11, 9, and 3, and take them to our neighbors next door who were in a higher house. And so we grabbed the kids out of bed, we waded through the water to our neighbor's house, and we rode out the storm there in our neighbor's house, along with 3 other families who had young kids. First of all, going through this experience, I was glad that I worked for the Red Cross because I really felt like we were prepared as a family. We knew what to expect, we knew what papers to grab, I knew who to call, and so I think from a recovery standpoint, I cannot say enough about the importance of being prepared. One of the great things about being a part of the Red Cross was being able to be outside on my street as I'm tearing out my belongings and putting them on the curb, is to see the Red Cross trucks and the Red Cross volunteers coming down the street. It made me very proud to see my organization in my neighborhood helping my neighbors. Someone who's been a victim of disaster, on the outside, they may look perfectly fine. But on the inside, they're experiencing that disaster in a different way, and you just aren't able to tell that. And so I really believe that the Red Cross, in addition to the immediate needs we provide for food, shelter, and clothing, our ability to just help comfort people, provide some mental health, recovery resources. For me, I have a better appreciation for the long-term recovery part of a disaster.
Red Cross volunteers in our area respond to an average of 4 fires a day. Those volunteers are usually the first step towards recovery for people who've lost all their possessions. That was the case for Jessica Thornell, who says the 3-alarm fire may have destroyed her home and everything in it, but it was the Red Cross that helped her rebuild her life.
I'm feeling overwhelmed. I didn't think that the last time I went down those stairs would be the last time. On September 30th, 2011, I was woken up by a loud noise. The maintenance man had kicked in our front door and was screaming fuego, which is fire. And immediately I jumped up and looked out the window, and when I did that, I saw flames just coming over my head. I panicked. I didn't know what to do, what to think. I just kind of went into autopilot. I just grabbed my purse, I grabbed my pillow, and I grabbed a small blanket, and I ran. And as I looked up, that's when the roof collapsed. I was standing out here watching them throw all my belongings out the window. I remember the look on my neighbors' faces, just nobody knowing what's going to happen, and we're all in the same position, just watching everything just burn. As I was standing there watching my whole life just burn to the ground, I realized my cats weren't with me, my babies, and I'm panicking, and I was screaming and whistling. So I was standing over here, calling them to come out, and they never came. I felt empty. I felt like a bad pet owner. I felt all these different emotions. The firefighters brought the mom cat and the 2 kittens out. They were deceased. They were wrapped in towels, and they brought them to me. I knew there was one more in there. A firefighter finally brought her to me, and he was holding her by the skin on the back of her neck. And she was unconscious, and I said her name, and she opened her eyes. Around the same time, the American Red Cross showed up. They tell you everything's gonna be all right. And you believe them, because it's the only really hope you have at that point.
I have a great team of volunteers. They put themselves in the place of the client. They're compassionate and concerned, and they really do a great job of making sure that the clients receive the services necessary.
I had to go back to the apartment about 3 days later, and as I was walking towards my burnt apartment, I was shocked because I saw one of the cats. She was alive, and she came right to me, and she rubbed up against my leg. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. She was not alive that night. I was very happy. She found me again. Now I have my 2 babies. I'm missing 2, but I still have 2. And I don't have a place to live, and I don't have my stuff, I don't have my clothes, I don't have anything. The American Red Cross, if it wasn't for them, I don't know where I'd be today. They did a lot of counseling type support. They've definitely been there in the worst times of my life. I still cry when I think about everything that happened that night and all that I lost. I don't know what I would have done without them, especially through the fire. They were exactly what I needed. 5 years after, so much has changed for the best. I'm gonna be getting married. I own my own business. And on the 1st, I'll be moving into my first house. And I wanna say most of that, if not all of it, is because of the American Red Cross. The angels in red, they came to help me.
Thornell was so grateful for the help she received from the Red Cross, she started volunteering and now assists other people devastated by disaster. Providing relief after a disaster like a fire is an important service for the Red Cross. Every week, volunteers go door to door handing out and installing smoke detectors, and since July, they've installed more than 2,600 of those life-saving devices.
The Home Fire Preparedness campaign is a campaign that provides free smoke alarms to high-risk areas in the city of Houston. It's been very successful.
In our area, we have already saved lives. The smoke alarms went off and alerted the family to get out. Their home did burn to the rails, but they were able to get out.
After they put the alarms in, which didn't take very long, they walked through the house and talked to the girls and Justin about fire safety and escape routes. So we made a plan, and I put it on the fridge and never really thought that we were going to need it. I went and lay down about 11 o'clock, and then we wake up to the disaster. So having those smoke alarms really was a blessing in disguise.
It makes our volunteers feel very much appreciated that they did something very positive and they did save a life, and that was the purpose of this program.
I feel strongly that we probably would have burned to death.
Saving lives is the focus of a lot of the work the Red Cross does. The charity provides a series of classes and certifications in many areas. They've been training babysitters and lifeguards for generations. And just in the past 6 months, more than 25,000 people have learned CPR thanks to the Red Cross. The Garza family is grateful one of those people was on hand when their mother started choking in a restaurant a few months ago.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Hello, Victoria. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
What do you remember?
All I remember is that they brought my plate and I got a little piece of meat and put it in my mouth, and when I put it in my mouth, it went sideways. Got stuck in my throat.
Immediately, I recognized that there was an emergency. I snapped because I'm a CPR instructor. Everything just snapped and everything came to my head, and I just stood up and I ran over there.
And I was already turning purple.
Yes, you were.
Yeah.
You were already purple. I first took a CPR training course when I was 16 years old as a lifeguard. After high school, I became a CPR instructor. As soon as I walked back to the table, my son ran up to me and said, "Daddy, you saved the lady's life. You're a hero." This is Maddox, and he's 5 years old. My son knows how to do CPR through prompting.
Tap and shout.
Are you okay? Are you okay?
There was no response.
There's no response. You, call 911.
Okay, listen and feel for 10 seconds. Looking at the other way. 1, 2, 3.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
He's not breathing. Begin CPR.
1, 2. When people are choking, I help them.
How do you do that?
Like this.
That's very good.
I thank everybody that helped me that day. If it had been for them, I wouldn't be here, especially Carlos. I don't have a husband, but do you have a wife?
Oh, I'm single.
Back when Model Ts were the primary mode of transportation, Red Cross volunteers picked up the elderly and disabled who had no other way to get to their appointments. They're still doing that today, but in more modern vehicles like these. Clients say it's a service they can rely on that gives them a sense of independence.
I've been using Red Cross for 5 years. The social worker at TIER had asked me about them and if I would be interested in using them. In August of 2005, I was involved in a crime. It was part of a carjacking. This man, he dragged me out of my car, and this is the reason why I'm in the chair. Now, as far as driving around or moving around, I use Red Cross. Red Cross has changed my life. They have been wonderful as far as transportation. They give me a little bit more of independence, and that feels good. It was just so inconvenient to my family sometimes because they have to work. Getting to my appointments, I was usually late or I was usually not able to make it, so I had to cancel. So coming into Red Cross has helped me in so many ways.
Our transportation program is a wonderful local program, one that developed out of a need after World War II here in the Houston area that we continue to do today.
Good morning. I'm good, and you?
Usually when I have a doctor's appointment, I call Red Cross and I give them whatever appointment I have as far as the location and address and the time that I have to be there. And then we'll coordinate as far as when they're going to pick me up. Hopefully in the future I get to drive. Until then, I will definitely using Red Cross. I don't know what I would do without them. Honestly, I wouldn't.
Volunteers make up about 97% of the Red Cross's workforce. There are more than 5,000 of them spread across the Texas Gulf Coast region. One thing we've heard over and over as we've talked to the charity's dedicated team of volunteers is that many have decided to give back to an organization that's given them so much. One of them is Jose Castillo Jr. We first met him after the September 11th attacks. Witnessing overwhelming need prompted Jose to do something he'd never done, take his first plane ride. He says he went to New York to do the only thing he knew how to do, help.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna say, yeah, I was Superman, you know. I wasn't, I was scared, but I was representing Red Cross. And I'm sitting there crying, and sometimes I still cry.
I've been a volunteer for 15 years now. I started when I was 33 years old. Wet behind the ears, didn't really know all the ropes, but I had some good mentors.
We have volunteers who help us in everyday fires that just want to be local volunteers, but we also have volunteers who really want to go be deployed to other areas to help those communities respond to disasters and recover.
Volunteers are the lifeblood of our organization. Our disaster volunteers are on the front lines serving our community. They are in the field, they're working, they're distributing relief supplies, they're working one-on-one with our clients to assist them in the recovery process and making sure that we get them back to their new normal. It's a very rewarding experience.
My name's Roy Clark, and I am the Texas Gulf Coast Region Volunteer Lead for Logistics. Back in 2008, my company participated in the Red Cross Ready When the Time Comes program, which employees can be trained by the Red Cross and be available during a local disaster. And when Ike hit, my company was closed like everybody else, and I was available along with others, and I volunteered and worked for the Red Cross. From that experience, I got interested and took further training and found sort of my niche in behind-the-scenes logistics work. When I retired at the end of 2009, I took on more responsibility, and I've been involved ever since.
I'm following a legacy of many people that have volunteered, and I hope the tradition continues in my family. I have a niece that wants to become a volunteer, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed. If I can do it as a Red Cross volunteer, imagine what you can do when you got 2 good legs and 2 good arms. So come and join my team, come and join my family. Yo me llamo Jose Castillo, and I'm a proud volunteer of the American Red Cross in Houston, Texas.
Houston was a different place 100 years ago, but one thing that hasn't changed is the Red Cross's commitment to serving everyone regardless of social status. The organization is credited with helping to level the playing field for those looking for equal opportunity and access.
As a result of the Red Cross, I have taught thousands of kids to swim. What's up, big boy? You all right? Good to see you. I've been associated with the Red Cross for over 55 years. I started out with the program with the Red Cross as a result of the Red Cross coming into the black community when I was a kid to try to help young blacks become associated with the Red Cross as participants in the swim programs. They would teach in every community and train young guys to become instructors in those various communities. Things being segregated at the time, we could not go to the white pools, so-called the regular pools at the time. But the Red Cross ignored the stereotype about going to the black community. It was too rough to go in there and what have you. And they found out that that was not true, that the people there was very appreciative. As a result of teaching these kids through the Red Cross system, we started branching out into competitive swimming. And when we had got an invitation from one of the big teams, and the meet was being held at the Shamrock Hilton, and they sent us an invitation by mistake. Now, mind you, the Shamrock Hilton was a segregated facility. It was a segregated hotel. Blacks could not swim in the pool there. When they sent us the invitation and we sent our entries in for the meet, somehow, and I don't know how, but they found out that we were predominantly black team. To make a long story short, They rejected us, but we wouldn't go away. They actually canceled the meet. The coach there, he said, we're now working to try to change this policy here at the Shamrock Hilton. And they did. 2 weeks later, they had the meet. I carried the kids there, and they did an outstanding job. And everybody was astounded because, you know, of course, blacks were not supposed to be able to swim. And the kids won a lot of gold medals, and that was the start of the integration period of swimming in Houston and Texas. The Red Cross was very supportive in helping us to go on and pursue being in these meets. The Red Cross has always been extremely genuine in its approach to helping people overall, no matter what color they have been. I'm the aquatics director and head swim coach for Harris County Aquatics. I started this program in 1992. This is Commissioner Lee, the late Commissioner Lee. He was a young guy in high school at that time, and he was swimming. He came through the Red Cross program himself and was an instructor, lifeguard for the Red Cross. We've had hundreds of kids to get swimming scholarships, some that are trying to get to the Olympics, and hopefully one day we'll have one of them to make the Olympic team. My background is the thing that has helped all of this generate, and my background came through the Red Cross. We would not have definitely been involved in swimming as we are now had it not been for the Red Cross.
The Red Cross is so proud to celebrate a century of service to the greater Houston area, and that could never have happened without the generosity of corporations and individual citizens. And with continued generosity, this great organization will go on to do remarkable work for at least another 100 years.
Hi, my name is Trinity Lau, and I'm 13 years old. This past summer, I raised $4,000 for the American Red Cross to help the Memorial Weekend flood victims. I did this because of the impact I saw on many friends and family that got flooded out of their homes. I started out with bake sales, but I soon realized that this wouldn't get me to where I wanted to go. I soon sought out donors and sponsors, and they helped me get where I am today. I feel that just because I'm 13 does not mean I can also have a big impact on others. So I encourage all other young people to try their best to raise money as well, because just because of your age doesn't mean that you can do something great.
That is incredible. $4,000. Great job, Trinity. And you are so right. Everyone can make a difference. The need is great, but when everyone works together, great things get accomplished. Here's how you can help the Red Cross continue to assist your neighbors. For more information on how to become a volunteer or to donate money, go to redcross.org/Houston or call 1-866-526-8300. A century of caring for Houston and its neighbors along the Texas Gulf Coast is no small feat. It takes a large, dedicated army of volunteers and donors. The Red Cross hopes you will join them in their commitment in uplifting those facing challenges in their lives. It's with your help that a strong legacy of service will continue for some time to come. Thanks for joining us.